Welcome back, fellow hobbyists. If you watched my second video posted, you saw us apply regular flat ochre pigments to the Games Workshop Imperial Griffin on the lion's bodies. That's your basic premise of applying pigments. But today I want to talk about metallics because the Griffin has feathers and I wanted to make the feathers metallic. So these are some wings I did a while back, and get you some close-up. The biggest problem with these wings is that they do not show up well on camera. It is extremely difficult to get the true depth of color on digital. So it's something that you have to look at in person, because the still photography and video just don't quite cut it, because these have a rich depth of color. Anyways, I wanted to go over some basics of these. As you can see on these wings, one side is a little bit more flat than the other. I will explain the reason for that in a minute. But first, let's look at the actual pigments themselves. I use Pearl X, and these are a very nice pigment for metallics. And it was kind of funny because I was talking to a friend about this, applying the pigments, and they said, well, Pearl X makes a metallic paint. And I understand that. That's not the point. You can get a variety of colors with this that you can't get with metallic paints. And you get a lot of control with them once you get the hang of them. Getting the hang of them is the tricky part. So, what I did originally, these were in the model horse hobby, and I used them initially to create a lifelike metallic sheen on the horse's hide. I don't know if any of you, for those of you who have seen a very well-groomed show horse, they literally just shine in the sunlight. And you can get that with metallic pigments. You have to apply your regular pigments, and then you put on the metallics before you are finished layering on the rest of the color. You then layer on the rest of the color and hope you counted your layers right, because it is sort of a guesstimate on when to apply them, because apply too much of the ochre pigments and you can't see the metallics, not enough, and the metallics look absolutely ridiculous. Anyways, you can see here, I'm demonstrating a horse here. I've got a buckskin that I use metallic pigments on. You don't actually see them where I applied, but it does give the horse a really nice glow to his coat. In doing that, I purchased a set of these little metallic jars. And basically what they are, it's a starter set. It's Jacquard Pearl X pigments. It's starter set 1. And I'm going to post a link on the video of where I got them at Dick Blick. I look for them at my local Hobby Lobby. Now, Hobby Lobby does carry the Pearl X. They are over in the polymer clay section, where the super sculpey and stuff like that is, because these are often used in bead making with the clays and jewelry making. They'll mix them right in with the clay and bake it, so that the clay gets a glow to it. My local Hobby Lobby didn't have that great of a selection, but again, I'm in a small town. There's, not going to be a lot of demand for that. So I got my starter set 1 off of Dick Blick, and if you notice, it comes with a book. I glanced at the book, kind of read through it a little bit, and it's got some neat hobby ideas. Of course, it's nothing that we would do in the model in the miniature industry or even the model horse industry, but it's you know, fun little projects. But I encourage you to read the book because it explains the depth of how to use the pigments, different ideas, different mediums you can use, and that's what gave me the idea to take this a step further. When I first started applying the pigments, and I read through that book, one thing it mentioned was that if you use a black or dark background, the metallics appear more vibrant. If you use a, let's say, a pastel colored background, the metallics appear softer and not as easy to see. So going through, I started experimenting with the pigments, and then I did my Black Griffin. This is Reaper Miniatures Black Griffin. He turned out, for an experiment, he turned out rather well. I ended up selling him. So I was, hey, you can't complain over that. And, but he still looks really harsh. But again, you're dealing with photography, so it's, again, very hard to get them to show up, the metallics to show up correctly in photography. But he did sell, and he turned out pretty well. But I wanted to see if I could find a way to make the metallics appear softer when I wanted them softer, and harsher when I wanted them, you know, up and in your face. So for these Griffin Wings, what I did is, instead of painting black, I underpainted, basically. I used brown and black and painted the feathers with the various colors, just like you would see on, let's say, a hawk or a golden eagle, you know, the brown feathers with a little bit of black on them. I painted them exactly like that. I then began to apply the metallic pigments, and that's how I got the softer color with the control. After I sealed them, I then applied glazes to add to shading and highlighting, but we'll go over that later. First, I want to just kind of give you a summary of what we're dealing with when it comes to application. When I first started using these for the model horses, I absolutely hated them because I tried applying them with a regular nylon paintbrush. Of course, I'm not using my good brush, it's just a regular old nylon paintbrush, and the minute you touch them to the model, they go poof, and you have glittery dust, metallic stuff all over the place. They're extremely hard to control. You get it in your eyes, your ears, and it's in everywhere you don't want it on the model. I mean, it was just ridiculous. So I put them away. I said, oh, I hate these things. I then, one day, I was going through Dick Blick, and I stumbled across, just quite by chance, these wonderful little tools called Color Shapers. And I get these from Dick Blick. I know Cool Mini carries them, but they're always out of stock. This is the first one I've got. These are Pastel Shapers, and you can see this is quite large. I've got 1-inch squares on my green mat here. So this is quite large, and you can see they're soft rubber tip tools. The nice thing about this rubber is it's non-porous, so you can use it for just about anything. And then just go rinse it off, and you're ready to rock and roll again. Stuff doesn't really stick to it like it does with a paintbrush. Well, I tried the Color Shapers, or these Pastel Shapers, and lo and behold, they worked wonderfully. I now have control over the application, and I don't have dust all over the place. Then they came out with the smaller versions, these minis. There's a Color Shaper and a Clay Shaper. A lot of people use the Clay Shapers for sculpting. They're very nice for that as well. But these are the perfect size for us, and again, soft rubber, so I have control over the application of the metallic pigment. And that is what makes the difference, especially the various sizes and shapes that you get. I use the big one, you know, for very large projects. I really don't use it a whole lot, but like on the very large feathers on the wings, I can use it there, and so on and so forth. So I would highly recommend getting these mini, they're called mini color shapers and mini clay shapers, and I'll post a link on that. I get mine through Dick Blick, but hey, wherever you can find them works. I do want to caution you about generic stuff or knockoffs. I did try a generic one, and it's made out of a different material. It was kind of spongy rather than rubbery, and it did not work. I mean, it was a disaster, so I threw that one in the trash as fast as I could. So, but these work wonderfully, and I strongly recommend them for applying these pigments. They will save you tearing your hair out, trust me. Okay, now, next up, we're going to go over actual application.